Picture this, there's a person at a party. Maybe they're classically attractive. Maybe they're not, doesn't actually matter. But here's the thing, you notice something happening. And it's strange. People are just gravitating toward them. Not because they're being loud, not because they're working the room or trying to charm anyone. They're literally just standing in the corner, mostly quiet, occasionally checking their phone, and yet everyone wants a piece of their attention. So someone walks up, right, tries to make them laugh, doesn't land. They smile politely and just look away. And then here's where it gets interesting. That person gets more interested, not less, more. Someone else tries to demonstrate their value, tells a story meant to impress. This person, they don't react the way the storyteller hoped. They just nod and excuse themselves to talk to someone else. And now you're watching that person invest even more emotional energy into getting the interest back. Hey, meanwhile, across the room, there's someone else, and this person is working, they're reading the room, adjusting their energy based on who they're talking to, seeking approval through basically everything they do. They're making sure people know how interesting they are. They're available, always available. They light up when someone talks to them. They laugh at jokes a little too hard. They remember small details about people to signal that they care. And nobody cares. I mean, people enjoy them in the moment, sure, but when they leave, nobody thinks about them again. They don't chase, they don't pursue, nobody does. So why is that? Why does one person become the object of desire while the other one just becomes background noise? We've been lied to our entire lives. We've been sold a formula for being wanted. You know the formula: work harder, be more impressive, show people how much you care, be available, be responsive, be helpful. Be the person who tries the hardest because effort signals devotion, right? Effort signals you're serious. Effort signals you're worthy of their time. Except it doesn't. It signals the exact opposite. See, when someone needs to work that hard just to keep you interested, what they're actually hearing is, you're not inherently valuable. Your value requires constant maintenance, constant proof. And at a primal level, and I mean at a cellular level, the human brain detects that uncertainty like a predator detects weakness in prey. This isn't about being arrogant. This isn't about not caring. This is about understanding something that the most magnetic people, the most wanted people, the most pursued people on this planet understand at a cellular level. And most people never figure it out. They die trying to chase, trying to prove, trying to convince. But what if you didn't? What if you understood the mechanism? What if you knew exactly why desire works the way it does and you reversed the entire game? Today, we're going to dissect that. We're going to look at why your brain has been programmed to pursue when the opposite, when scarcity, that's what creates magnetism. We're going to understand the neuroscience of why absence creates obsession, why the most valuable people in any room do almost nothing to be valuable. I'm going to show you the specific mechanisms that transform you from someone who chases to someone who is chased, from someone seeking approval to someone granting it, from someone whose attention is cheap and free to someone whose attention becomes currency. But be warned, understanding this requires you to fundamentally rewire how you move through the world. It requires you to kill the part of you that people pleases, the part that validates itself through other people's responses, the part that believes constant effort is how you earn love and respect. If you can kill that part, you become something different. You become the person people orbit around. Let's begin. So, why do you do it? I mean, really, why, when you like someone or respect someone or want something from someone, why is your first instinct to move closer, to make yourself available, to demonstrate your interest, to show them through your actions that they matter to you? It's not something you learned yesterday. It starts way earlier than childhood. It starts in your biology and it's baked in your brain, right? Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It evolved to solve one core problem. How do I survive? How do I reproduce? And one of the most foundational patterns your brain learned was this. Scarcity signals a value. If something is hard to get, it must be worth getting. If everyone has access to it, it can't be that valuable. This isn't a conscious thought. It's not something you're thinking about. It's hardwired. It's the reason a vintage watch costs more than a new one, even if the new one works better. It's the reason a limited edition sneaker is worth more than an unlimited one. And here's the thing. This pattern applies to everything, including people. Especially people. When you like someone and you become immediately available, like instantly available, what you're doing neurologically is signaling abundance. You're saying, in effect, my attention is so cheap, it's so freely available, that I give it away to basically anyone. And the brain on the receiving end, it processes that instantly. They don't think it consciously, but they feel it. Cheap things get ignored. The person who is always responsive, always interested, always trying, they get the psychological equivalent of a tag sale price. Now let's go back to childhood because this is where the template gets written. This is the origin point. You're a kid, you do something wrong. Your parent gets upset, maybe they're angry, maybe they're... Withdraw! And what's the only way to restore safety, to restore connection? It's effort. You have to convince them you're sorry. You have to explain. You have to perform regret. You have to demonstrate through your actions that you understand what you did. You learned something then. You learned that when connection is threatened, the solution is increased effort. Try harder. Work harder. Be better. Prove your worth. Again and again and again. That became the template. The problem is you grew up in Mangle, but that template didn't. You're walking around right now, projecting that dynamic onto literally everyone. When someone seems distant, you try harder. When someone loses interest, you increase your effort. When you want something from someone, you work to convince them. You learned that the way to earn love is through exhaustion, through proving, through constant demonstration. But here's what's actually happening in the other person's brain. Here's what's really going on when you become more available, more interested, more trying. Something shifts. Chase becomes mutual. You stop being an equal and you become a pursuer. And the brain on the other side of that equation, it has an ancient program that says if they're pursuing us, they must see something in us that they're trying to get, which means we have something of value, which means we can relax, we can withdraw, we can become even more valuable by being less available. So they withdraw, and you feeling that withdrawal, interpret it as rejection, and rejection activates your childhood program again. So you chase harder, you become more available, more responsive, more trying, and they feel that desperation. They feel it through your words, your tone, your energy, and they recede further and further, and the gap keeps growing. Think about what happens on a text thread. You like someone, right? They send you a message. Under normal circumstances, maybe you'd respond in an hour or two, but because they matter to you, because they matter, you respond in 3 minutes, then I send another message. You're literally typing before you even finish reading. You're available, eager, responsive. What they feel is not warmth, they feel neediness. At a subconscious level, and I mean subconscious, they register that you have too much emotional space in your life, and they're filling it, which means you probably fill that space with basically anyone who gives you attention, which means they're not special. Meanwhile, they send a message to someone else, someone who doesn't respond for hours, maybe someone who opens it but doesn't respond at all, and that person, the one who doesn't respond immediately, suddenly feels important. The unavailability signaled that the other person has a full life, has other priorities, chose to respond when they got around to it. And that person feels chosen, not like a default option. The chase becomes this awful spiral, you pursuing harder, then receding further, the gap between you getting wider and wider, until eventually one of two things happens. Either you completely exhaust yourself and you back away, at which point they might suddenly re-engage because the threat of losing you activates their own survival instincts. Or they disappear completely because there's no challenge left. You've already won them over through your effort, so the chase is over. This is the trap. This is the trap of pursuit. The harder you chase, the more valuable you appear to be signaling that the person you're chasing is. And the more you signal that, the less reason they have to invest in you. You've basically made the negotiation for them. You've said, you're the valuable one here. I'm the one trying to win you over. Now, there's a neuroscience explanation for why this happens with such a precision. It's called the scarcity principle. When something is scarce, when access is limited, the brain assigns it higher value, not because it's actually better, but because the brain uses availability as a proxy for value. Rare things are valuable. Common things are cheap. Get your attention, your time, your interest. These are the same. When you give them away freely, they become cheap. When they're selective, when they're earned, when they require something from the other person, they become valuable. The most wanted people in the world aren't wanted because they're more interesting. They're wanted because they're harder to access. The brain likes puzzles. The brain is drawn to things it can't immediately have. There's something else happening too. When someone withdraws from you, when they're not immediately responsive, it activates something in your nervous system. It's a mild threat. It's uncertainty. And your brain absolutely hates uncertainty. So it works to solve the puzzle. It replays the conversation in your head. It wonders what they meant. It invests more mental energy. And that mental energy feels like desire. You think you want them more because they're more withdrawn. But what's actually happening is your brain is working harder. And that work feels like interest. Effort feels like love. The person who is already won, the person who has your attention, the person who doesn't have to work for it, they don't get this neurological reward. So they stop working, they become less interested, and the gap grows and grows and grows. So how do you flip this? How do you become the person who doesn't have to work? How do you become the person who is scarce? How do you become the person whose attention is currency? First, you have to understand the basic mechanism. And the mechanism is called strategic unavailability. Now, before you freak out, this isn't about being rude. This isn't about being cold. It's not about games. This is about recognizing something fundamental. Your attention is a resource, and like any resource, its value is determined by supply and demand. You've been flooding the market with your attention. You've been making it abundantly available, and so it has no value, none. The most magnetic people don't operate from a place of scarcity because they're afraid of connection. They operate from abundance. They have limited availability, not because they're desperate to be wanted, but because they have other things that matter to them. They have lives that are full. They have interests. They have commitments. They have other people who are getting their attention. And from that place of abundance, from that place of having a full life, attention becomes selective. Presence becomes valuable. Interest becomes currency. Here's how this works practically. You match with someone on a dating app. Old pattern, old response pattern. They message you, you message back. Immediately they say something, you're typing a response while they're still mid-sentence. What does this signal? They have your full attention. You have nothing else going on. You're available. At a primitive level, at a really primitive level, this reads as low status. New pattern, they message you. You wait, not forever, but long enough that when you do respond, it's clear that you had other things going on, that you got to it when you could, that your attention wasn't just sitting around waiting for them. When you do respond, you respond thoughtfully, fully, with your real thoughts, not just rapid-fire reactions. The gap between their message and your response sends a signal. You have a full life, you have other priorities, and being available to them, that's something you choose. That's not something that happens by default. This changes everything in their nervous system. The uncertainty of not knowing when you'll respond activates their puzzle-solving brain. They wonder what you were doing. The scarcity of your attention makes it more valuable. The fact that you responded fully, completely with real thought makes them feel seen, not like they're receiving some robotic response, but like they actually got your focus when you gave it. And that feels different. That feels like an actual gift. Now let's go deeper, because there's more to this. There's a concept called a selective reciprocation. This is where you don't match the energy given to you. You sometimes exceed it, but carefully. You sometimes diminish it, but intentionally. You know, if someone texts you 3 times a day, you don't text them 3 times a day back. If someone calls you, you don't always answer on the first ring. Not out of games, but out of honoring your own time. Out of the recognition that your time is valuable. And here's the psychological mechanism. When you don't reciprocate at the same level, you're subconsciously signaling that you have options, that you have other things, that you're not dependent on this interaction. And the human brain is drawn to people who have options, because people with options have value. People without options are desperate. And desperation it's invisible, but it's palpable. The second mechanism is the cultivation of mystery. This is different from playing games. Games are manipulation. Mystery is honesty with boundaries. It's you choosing what you reveal and when. It's understanding something fundamental about human psychology. People are attracted to what they don't completely understand. The person who lays their entire self out immediately, all their vulnerabilities, all their history, all their insecurities, they create nothing to discover. They've given away the mystery. There's nothing left to be curious about. But the person who is open, who shares real things, but who doesn't dump everything immediately, who doesn't explain themselves excessively, who doesn't justify or defend their positions, they maintain mystery. They create space for the other person to wonder, to project, to fill in blanks. And humans find other. Humans absolutely magnetic when there's space to project onto them. This is why the silent person often seems more intelligent, not because they are necessarily, but because you don't know what they're thinking. Your brain fills in the blank with your assumptions, and your assumptions project your own intelligence onto them. The open person, the person who talks a lot and explains themselves constantly, you know exactly what they're thinking. No mystery, no projection, no magnetism. There's a third mechanism, and it's called controlled vulnerability. This is where you reveal real things about yourself, but strategically, not everything to everyone. This is where you break the illusion that you have it all figured out. But you do it in a way that requires trust. You do it selectively, with people who've earned it, not as a default setting. The difference, and this is important, the difference between controlled vulnerability and just being open is the difference between strategy and lack of boundaries. The person who is vulnerable with everyone is just unfiltered. They feel unstable, they feel unsafe to be around. But the person who is vulnerable selectively, who shares real struggles, but only with people who've proven they deserve that access, they seem grounded. They seem confident enough to admit they're not perfect. They seem secure enough to have boundaries around their revelation. Think about it like this. If I tell a stranger on the street that I'm struggling with anxiety, they might judge me. They might use it against me. But if I tell someone who's earned my trust, who's proven they care, that same revelation becomes bonding. It becomes intimate. It says to them, I trust you enough to show you this. And that's an incredible gift. That's something people will chase to protect and preserve. The fourth mechanism is what we could call the withdrawal reset, because this is where you periodically create distance. Not punishment, not a game, but a conscious recalibration where you step back. You're less available for a period, you're focused on your own things, and what this does is it recalibrates the value of your attention. It reminds them what it feels like when they don't have your focus, and when you return, when you re-engage, it feels special, it feels rare. It feels like they got something back that they'd been missing. People often confuse this with the silent treatment, but it's not. And the silent treatment is punishment. This is presence management. It's you recognizing something real. Constant presence becomes background noise. And so you modulate it, you create variation, and variation keeps people awake, variation keeps them interested. Constant presence puts them to sleep. And finally, there's the mechanism of granting approval selectively. This is where you stop validating every action someone takes. You stop saying yes to every request. You stop praising mediocre effort. You stop being the person who is always there with a vote of confidence. Instead, your approval becomes something that has to be earned. Your validation becomes something that matters because you don't give it to everyone. When you validate everything, approval has no value. It's cheap. It's automatic. But when you validate selectively, when you sometimes withhold it, when you sometimes express doubt, your positive feedback becomes something people want. It becomes evidence that they're actually doing something valuable. Not just that they're your friend and you're nice to them. Let me give you an example because this principle applies everywhere, not just in romantic relationships, in business. You work at a company, there's a manager who praises everyone. Every idea someone has, they get excited about it. Oh, that's great. I love that. You're so creative. After a while, that praise becomes meaningless. No one respects that manager's opinion because they validate everyone. Their feedback is useless. And then there's another manager. They're harder to impress. They ask tough questions. They sometimes push back. When they do give you praise, when they say, that's actually really good work, you feel it. It matters because you know they don't say it unless they mean it. That manager has power. People want their approval because it actually means something. Same principle in friendship. You have a friend who always validates you. No matter what you do, they think you're amazing. After a while, you stop believing them. Their validation is worthless because it's unconditional. But a friend who is honest, who sometimes tells you when you're wrong, who doesn't automatically agree with everything you say, when they do affirm something about you, it lands. It means something. This is strategic, but it's not manipulative. It's just respecting the actual value of your affirmation. It's recognizing that words only mean something if they're selective. If you give them away to everyone, they're cheap. If you only give them when genuinely earned, they're currency. One more thing, and this is important. These mechanisms work together. They're not separate. Strategic unavailability combined with mystery, combined with controlled vulnerability, combined with selective approval, combined with withdrawal resets, creates a complete system. You're not just doing one thing, you're creating an entire environment where your presence and attention are valuable, where the relationship is something they have to work for, where being around you feels like a privilege, not a default. And here's the final truth about these mechanisms. They work because they're the opposite of how desperate people operate. They're the opposite of how people signal low status, and desperate people are available all the time. Desperate people explain everything. Desperate people give all their approval freely. Desperate people create no mystery. So when you do the opposite, when you operate from the opposite set of principles, you automatically signal high status, not through arrogance, but through alignment with how high status people actually move through the world. Now we need to go into the meta level, because if you're just using these tactics, if you're just playing the game, it won't work. The energy will be off. People will smell the manipulation. It will feel calculated and it will fail. So yeah, let's talk about what's actually happening when these dynamics play out. And the answer is something most people never understand. And it's called perceived value, not actual value. So perceived value, you are not actually more valuable when you're less available. Your intelligence doesn't increase when you speak less. Your character doesn't improve when you strategically reveal less of yourself. But the other person perceives all of these things. And here's the profound part. Their perception is their reality. You cannot convince someone of your actual value through words. You can't tell someone, I'm important, I'm valuable, I'm worth your time. The moment you do that, the moment you've signaled weakness, right? You've signaled that you need them to believe that. But when you operate from a place where you're clearly valuable to yourself, where your time is clearly valuable to you, where you're not requiring their validation to know that you matter, they perceive that and they match it internally. This is where the power game becomes almost spiritual. It's not about winning, it's about alignment. It's about operating from a state of internal knowing. And when you're in that state, when you're in that place, people respond to it automatically. They don't know why, but they do. There's also the phenomenon of projection. When you maintain mystery, when you don't fully explain yourself, when you don't do the work for them, you create a blank canvas. And the human brain is a projection machine.
The person you're engaging with will project their own values onto you. They will imagine that you're deeper than you are, that you're smarter than you are, that you're more interesting than you are, not because you're deceiving them, but because that you're not doing the work to diminish their imagination with reality. The person who is fully known, the person who explains themselves, the person who is immediately and completely available, they don't get this benefit. You know exactly what you're dealing with. No mystery, no projection, no room for them to imagine you're more than you are. You become small in their mind because they can see the entire you. But the person who maintains boundaries, who controls access, who doesn't perform themselves fully, they get the benefit of everyone's imagination. Everyone assumes they're more than they show. That's a superpower. Here's something else that happens when you don't pursue, when you don't chase, when you don't explain yourself or try to convince anyone of your value. A strange thing happens. People need to convince themselves that you're worth the effort. People have a psychological need for consistency. If they've decided you're valuable, if they've made that decision, they need to behave in a way that's consistent with that belief. So they invest, they pursue, they try to figure you out. And the more they invest, the more real the relationship becomes to them. This is the psychology of earning. If I have to work for something, I value it more. If it's just given to me, it feels cheap. But if I have to reach for it, or if I have to figure it out, if I have to invest, then it becomes real. It becomes mine. There's also a status element here that most people don't understand. In any interaction between two people, there's an implicit status hierarchy. And status, and this is key, status is not determined by accomplishment or intelligence or money. Status is determined by who is more desperate for the relationship, who has more to lose if it ends. When you make yourself less available, when you don't pursue, when you maintain mystery, you're subconsciously stating something. You're stating that you don't need this relationship more than the other person does. You have options, you have a full life. You can walk away. And the moment someone perceives that you're not dependent on them, your status goes up. It's automatic. It's not about arrogance. It's about independence. The person who is desperate for connection has low status. The person who has high status is the one who is fine either way. The relationship is a choice, not a necessity. And people are drawn to high status people. It's in our DNA. We want to be around people who have what they want, not people who are desperate to be wanted. There's one more element that's important, and I want to get this right because it changes everything. When you operate from this place, when you're not chasing, when you're not pursuing, something shifts in your internal experience. You become less anxious, you become less reactive. You're not waiting for text messages, you're not refreshing your phone, you're not replaying conversations in your head wondering if you said the right thing. You're not in a state of constant uncertainty. You're in a state of peace. And that peace is visible. That groundedness is visible. People can sense when someone is okay, when someone has their own life, when someone doesn't need them to feel valuable. And it's attractive. It's magnetic. It's the opposite of desperation. It's certainty. And certainty is one of the most attractive things a human being can project. But here's what you need to understand, and I mean really understand this. None of this works if it's just a technique. So if you're using these methods, but inside you're still desperate, still needy, still looking to other people for validation, it will
leak out. Your energy will be off. People will sense the manipulation. And it will repel them instead of attract them. So we need to go into the shadow. We need to look at why you've been pursuing in the first place. why you've been available, why you've been seeking approval. Because until you understand that, until you integrate that part of yourself, you can't authentically operate from the place of healthy unavailability. For most people, it starts with the wound. The earliest version of you decided something. You decided that love was conditional, that you had to earn it, that your worth was dependent on your performance. Maybe a parent was distant. Maybe they withheld approval. Maybe they only paid attention to you when you did something impressive. Maybe they were emotionally unavailable and you were just a kid trying to figure out how to survive in that. And you, as a tiny person, figured out the formula. The way to get their attention was to work, to try, to achieve, to perform. And then that became your template. That became how you approached every relationship, every interaction. You brought that same desperation to getting people to validate you. Because at some level, at some deep level, every person you've tried to impress is that parent. Every relationship you've pursued is you trying to get approval from someone who's withholding it. The shadow work is going back into that. It's looking at that original wound and recognizing it. It's understanding that just because your parent was emotionally unavailable doesn't mean you have to be. Just because they withheld approval doesn't mean you have to withhold it from yourself. Just because they made you feel like you had to earn love doesn't mean that's true. And then you do the work, you grieve it, you feel the anger, you feel the hurt, you feel the abandonment, you feel it fully. You let yourself feel that you didn't deserve that. A child doesn't have to earn love. A child doesn't deserve to have to perform to be valuable. You got dealt a bad hand, and that's a real thing to mourn. But here's where it shifts. Once you've mourned that wound, and once you've grieved what you didn't get, you can now choose something different. You can choose to give yourself what you didn't receive. You can choose to internally validate yourself. You can choose to know your worth independent of anyone else's opinion. You can choose to fill your own cup instead of constantly looking to others to fill it. And from that place of internal fullness, everything changes. You're not pursuing to be validated. You're pursuing because you actually want to. You're not available to prove your worth. You're available when it serves you. You're not seeking approval. You're living the way that feels right to you. And if someone wants to be part of that, great. If not, also fine. This is the integration of the shadow. This is where
you take the part of you that was desperate for love and you reparent it. You tell it what it needed to hear. You tell it you're okay now. You're valuable. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to perform. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to be unavailable. You're allowed to be mysterious. You're allowed to maintain your own life as the primary focus and let other people into that life selectively. Now, there's a paradox here, and I want you to feel this paradox. The person who has done this shadow work, the person who has internally validated themselves, the person who is genuinely comfortable with being alone, is the person who becomes most attractive to others because they're not desperate, because they're not trying, because they genuinely don't need anyone. And people want to be with people like that. People want to be with people who are okay, who are not going to suffocate them with need. Who won't blame them if things
don't work out? Who can be present without dependence? The person who is still in the wound, still looking to be validated, or still desperate underneath the techniques. They might temporarily attract people with the tactics, but it won't last. The energy will be wrong. Eventually someone will test them, will look at them and say, do you actually care about me? Or are you just using me to feel good about yourself? Yes. And the person who hasn't done the shadow work won't have a real answer, but the person who has integrated that part of themselves, who knows their own value, who doesn't need the other person to feel complete, they can look at someone and say, I'm here because I want to be, not because I need to be. And that's a completely different thing. That's love, not desperation dressed up as love. So here's what I want you to do. I'm serious about this. For the next 7 days, I want you to play a game. The game is called No Pursuit. For 7 days, just
7. You're not going to initiate. You're not going to be the first one to reach out. You're not going to respond immediately. You're not going to explain yourself. You're not going to justify your actions. You're not going to validate people's insecurities. You're not going to work for approval. If someone doesn't text you, let them not text you. Don't reach out first. If someone takes hours to respond to you, let them. Don't get anxious about it. If someone cancels plans, don't immediately offer an alternative. Someone criticizes you, don't defend yourself. Sit in the discomfort of being misunderstood. This is harder than it sounds. I'm not understating this. Your system is going to scream at you. Your nervous system will activate. You'll feel the urge to fill the silence, to explain, to reach out, to fix the distance. That urge is the addiction talking. That urge is the old program saying, if you don't work, they'll leave. If you don't pursue, they don't care. If you
don't validate them, you're being cold. Let that urge come. Don't follow it. Watch what happens. Watch how people react when you stop pursuing. Watch how they respond when you don't immediately validate their texts. Watch how they invest more when you're less available. Watch your own anxiety as it comes up. Don't fix it. Feel it. Let it move through you. And here's what you'll discover. When you stop pursuing, something shifts. Some people will actually pursue you. They'll suddenly start reaching out. They'll start asking. When they can see you, they'll start valuing your time because your time suddenly became scarce. The people who don't pursue you, they probably weren't going to anyway, but you were spending energy on them, energy you could have spent on yourself. You'll also discover something about your own anxiety. You'll find out what you're actually afraid of, that you're not lovable if you're not performing, that you're not valuable if you're not trying, that you'll be abandoned if you don't work. Let yourself feel that, because those are the beliefs that have been driving your behavior, and they're not true, but you have to see them to change them. Watch how people respond to your mystery. Watch how they try to
figure you out. Watch how they invest more. Watch how those who actually care about you show up differently. Watch how some people disappear, and let them. Because if someone only wants you when you're pursuing, when you're trying, when you're available, they don't want you. They want what you're giving them. And you don't want to be with someone like that. By the end of the 7 days, you'll feel different. You'll feel more grounded. You'll feel less anxious. You'll feel more like yourself. And the people around you will respond to that. They'll start treating you differently. Some will pursue you. Some will respect you more. Some will leave. And all of those things are good. They're all information. They're all clarifying. Now,
I want to give you a realistic picture because it's not always comfortable. And I want you prepared. First, your own nervous system is going to rebel. You've been operating under a certain program for your entire life. That program has grooves, deep grooves, neurological pathways. Your brain knows how to execute pursuit, knows how to perform, knows how to seek approval. When you try to stop, your brain is going to fight you. It's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel selfish. It's going to feel cruel. That's not you being bad. That's you being addicted to your own programming. That's the addiction talking. You'll feel the urge to check your phone, to reach out, to explain something, to validate someone who said something critical, to apologize when you didn't do anything wrong. Don't act on those urges. They're the addiction. They'll pass. But while they're active, while they're present, they're going to feel like the most important thing in the world. They're going to feel like proof that you're a bad person if you don't follow them. You're not. You're just breaking a habit. Second, some people will push back. They've gotten used to having your constant attention, like your constant validation, your constant work. Man, when that suddenly stops, they might escalate. They might get angry. They might become more critical. They might test you. They might withdraw themselves to punish you. Some of this is them not knowing how else to interact with you. Some of it is them realizing that they need to work harder to keep your interest. All of it is them adjusting to a new dynamic. The people worth keeping in your life will adjust. They'll start engaging differently. They'll pursue you more. They'll value you more. The people who were only around because it was easy to have you around will disappear, and that's good. That's the filtering mechanism at work. Third, you might feel lonely for a bit because when you stop pursuing, there's a gap. There's an absence of activity. The constant reaching out, the constant explaining, the constant trying, that was taking up your emotional space. When it stops, you have space. And space can feel like loneliness if you're not used to it. But it's not loneliness, it's freedom. It's you finally being by yourself instead of being alone, while trying to control how other people perceive you. Fourth, you're going to have insights, not immediately, but as days pass, you're going to realize how much energy you've been spending on things that don't matter, on people who don't deserve it, on approval that you never actually wanted. You're going to notice patterns. You're going to see where you got the programming. You're going to feel angry about it, maybe. You're going to feel grief. You're going to feel relief. You're going to feel a lot. And then something shifts, usually around day 5 or 6. You'll wake up and realize you forgot to check if someone had messaged you. You'll realize you actually don't care if someone doesn't respond to your text. You'll realize you're okay. You're whole. You don't need external validation to know you're valuable. And that feeling, that's the freedom. That's what you're working toward. Fifth, people will notice, and maybe not consciously, but they'll feel the shift. They'll sense that something's different. You're more grounded. You're less desperate. You're more yourself, and they'll be drawn to it. Some will pursue you. Some will respect you. Some will fear you a little bit. All of those responses are correct because you've changed. You've become someone different. Someone less available, someone more valuable, someone not to be taken for granted. After the 7 days, the real work begins. You don't go back to normal. But what normal was the problem. Instead, you integrate. You start to understand which parts of this new way actually feel authentic to you and which parts were just exercises. You start to feel the difference between genuine boundaries and games, between authentic mystery and manipulation, between healthy unavailability and avoidance. The goal isn't to become a cold, unavailable person. Let me be clear about that. The goal is to become a person who is genuinely comfortable with themselves, a person who doesn't need constant reassurance, a person who can say no without explaining, a person who has boundaries and honors them, a person who is whole. What you'll notice is that the people who matter will stay. The people who were only around for the validation you provided will fade. And that's the filtering happening automatically. You're not punishing anyone. You're just creating space for authentic connection. You're just saying, I'm going to fill my own cup first. And if you want to be around me, you're welcome to. But I'm not going to empty myself for you. Some relationships will deepen because for the first time, they're based on genuine mutual interest rather than one person pursuing and one person being pursued. You're on equal footing. And that's actually how love works. That's actually how real relationships form. Some of your own anxiety will dissolve. Not all of it, but a lot of it. The constant checking your phone, the constant wondering if you said the right thing, the constant replaying conversations, much of that was coming from the desperation, from the need to control how people perceive you. When you stop needing to control that, when you accept that some people will misunderstand you and that's okay, you feel lighter, you feel like yourself. And most importantly, you'll notice something shift in your core sense of worth. You'll realize that you don't actually need anyone to validate you, that you're allowed to take up space, that your presence is enough, that you don't have to perform to be valuable. And that's not arrogance, that's just alignment. That's just you finally being who you actually are without the costume. This is the integration. This is how you build a new operating system for yourself, not through force, but through consistent practice, through doing the game, through watching what happens, through recognizing the patterns, through slowly over time changing the way you move through the world. When you like integrate this, when you truly understand it, like when you do the shadow work and build this into how you operate, something profound happens. You stop being a person who chases. You become a person who is chased. You stop being someone seeking approval. You become someone granting it. You stop being someone whose time is cheap. You become someone whose attention is currency. And from that place, you become something that is almost impossible to describe, but everyone recognizes. You become magnetic. You become the person in the room that people orbit around. Not because you're the loudest or the funniest or the most impressive, but because you seem like someone who
is whole, someone who is complete, someone who doesn't need anything from anyone, someone who is choosing to be present rather than desperately trying to maintain presence. The person everyone wants is the person who doesn't need everyone. It's a paradox, but it's how human psychology works. We're drawn to people who have what they want. We're repelled by people who are desperate to be wanted. You'll start to notice this everywhere once you understand it. In relationships, in business, in social dynamics, in your family. Whoever is less dependent has more power. Always. That's not cruelty. That's just the architecture of human connection. But here's what makes this different from manipulation. The real version of this doesn't come from tactics. It comes from alignment. It comes from actually being someone who has a full life, who has ambitions, who has other people and things and projects that matter more than winning someone's approval. That's not a game. That's just
living. That's just having your priorities in the right order. And when you live that way, it's when you organize your life around what actually matters to you instead of around winning other people's validation, everything changes. You feel better. You're less anxious. You attract better people. You have better relationships. You have more power. You have more freedom. You have your life back. The person you become when you stop pursuing is the person people actually want to pursue. The person you become when you stop performing is the person people actually want to be around. The person you become when you stop seeking approval is the person whose approval actually matters. This isn't theoretical. This is how it works. It's counterintuitive, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is the shift. This is the integration. This is how you become untouchable, not by being cold or distant or cruel, but by being whole, by being complete, by knowing that your worth is that.
Not determined by anyone else's opinion, by knowing that your presence is a gift, not a given, by knowing that you are the prize, not them, not anyone, you. So do the work. Feel the shadow. Play the game. Watch what happens. And then notice who you become. Notice how you feel. Notice who wants to be around you. Notice the freedom. Once you feel that freedom, once you know what it's like to move through the world without desperately seeking approval, once you know what it's like to have your own back, you won't want to go back. You'll have tasted sovereignty. And that changes everything. If this resonates, if this philosophy speaks to the part of you that's exhausted from trying, that's tired of performing, that's ready to be whole, then subscribe. But not because I'm asking you to. Subscribe because you're done being the pursuer in a world of people worth pursuing. Subscribe because you know you're the prize.